This video is for the percent of change foldable, so you should have a copy of this foldable, and the first thing that you're going to do is cut on the dotted line down here and remove this section. So when you finish with that, it should look like this, and then you're ready to go. So we're going to start on the front here. We have fold lines, so if you want to go ahead and fold in on that line on the percent increase side, hold it as close to that line as possible. It doesn't have to be exact. And then for the percent decrease side, we're going to fold that in as well. When both of those are covered, they overlap a little bit, but you can still see the percent decrease and percent increase labels on either side. So we're going to look at the center information first. So percent of change applies to decrease or increase. It's basically what percent of a quantity has changed, either going down, decreasing, or going up, increasing. So I'm going to come back to this format of what we're going to be writing, but I want to remind you of these things down here. First is, when it says old amount, that means the original or starting amount that you were given. What happened first? Then when we're finished putting in our numbers here, we're going to divide, and these next three bullet points have to do with what we do once we divide our numbers that we've put into this new amount minus old amount over old amount format. So I'll come back to those in just a minute. So let's look for percent increase. Percent increase is going to happen when a number goes up. So for example, if you had scored a 5 on an MYP assessment and you retook that assessment and got a 7, then your score has increased. If in one quarter on your report card you got a 7 and then the next quarter it went down to a 6, then that corresponds to a decrease because the number went down from the original number. So back over here to the percent increase, we're going to calculate the percent change, and if the value is positive, it represents an increase. But really we shouldn't be waiting to find out if our number is positive or negative, because if the number is going up, it's an increase. So if you come out with a negative number but you know a value has increased, then you know you've done something wrong. So here's the example. I counted 12 hummingbirds in my backyard yesterday. This morning I put up a hummingbird feeder, and today I counted 16 hummingbirds. So the old amount, the original or starting amount, was 12, and the new amount is 16. So we're going to calculate the percent change and indicate whether this represents an increase or a decrease. So the old amount is 12. I started with 12, and I'm going to have you write 12 over the part on your foldable that says old amount. So 12 goes in both of those spaces. This is what we started out with, and now we have 16. So we're going to do 16 minus, there's a minus sign there, 16 minus 12 over 12. Well, 16 minus 12 is 4, and 4 over 12 is the fractional value of that percent change. Notice that it's a positive number divided by a positive number, which means it's going to be an increase because that's going to come out to be a positive value in the end. So now we're going to divide, because remember 4 over 12 is the same thing as 4 divided by 12. So you can use a calculator for this. 4 divided by 12. You might have already known that that was the same thing as 1/3, which is 0.3 repeating. So looking back at the foldable in the center, it says when you divide, you'll get the percent written as a decimal. So that equals 0.333, and those 3's keep going on and on forever. We're going to multiply by 100 to get the percent not written as a decimal. So we're going to take that 0.333 repeating and multiply by 100. And the shortcut for that, you don't necessarily need to use a calculator. When we multiply by 100, it causes the decimal place to move to the right 2 spaces. But I'm going to show you that on my calculator, times 100. So I have 33.3 repeating percent. So remember, it's a positive number, so that means the number of hummingbirds increased by 33.3%, and I'm going to use the repeating bar over the 0.3. The number of hummingbirds increased by 33.3%. So on the percent decrease side, we should be seeing that the number goes down. So when the number goes down, it's going to cause our value to be negative. But we know that that's going to come out to be negative because negative makes our numbers go lower, and that indicates a decrease. So in this case, I counted 12 hummingbirds in my backyard yesterday. Again, that's the old amount for the starting or original amount. Today I only counted 9, but that's probably because the hummingbird feeder was empty. Calculate the percent change and indicate whether this represents an increase or decrease. Well, the old amount was the 12 hummingbirds I had previously seen. The new amount is the 9 hummingbirds I saw today. So that's 9 minus 12. 9 minus 12 is negative 3. That indicates that the number of hummingbirds went down 3 from what previously I had counted. So it's negative 3 over 12. Our next step is to divide negative 3 by 12. Negative 3 divided by 12, I'm not sure, negative 3 divided by 12 is negative 0.25, or negative 25 hundredths. Remember, that is the percent written as a decimal. We need to move the decimal to the right 2 places, which is what's happening when we multiply that number by 100 to get the percent written as a percent and not as a decimal. So that comes out to be negative 25%. So the number of hummingbirds decreased by 25%. Notice that I did not put a negative number here. Because it's a negative number, that tells me it decreased. If it was a positive number here, it tells me it increased. But you wouldn't say decreased by negative 25 because that's 2 negatives, which makes a positive. Like, I'm not going to the dance tonight means I am going to the dance tonight. We don't want to say decrease by a negative amount because that actually would mean an increase. So the negative says you decreased, and the 25% comes from the 0.25.